getting to the session, the opening session of the afternoon. Filmed content today is an ever-expanding range of genres and subgenres in varied formats and forms. Digital cameras and easy-to-edit systems had already democratized the filmmaking universe. With the coming in of streaming video on demand technologies and a fast evolving Netscape, as well as the constant upgradation of 3G and 4G technologies, the scope of reaching out your film has seen an exponential growth over the years. The indies never really had it so good. If you have a film, there are ways of not only screening it, but monetizing it. So it's for all those independent filmmakers, all those content creators, in fact, who are looking at alternate modes of monetization, distribution, VOD as the key distribution platform for indies. That's what this session is all about. And for that, we have a very interesting panel and of speakers here. I would like to invite the founder of the film collaborative, OrlyRavid, to please come up. We have the CEO, Vista India, Suri Gopalan. A lot of people know here because of the interface that he has done for them, probably for Netflix and Amazon. And we have Vanita Kohli Khandekar as the moderator. She's a media specialist and author. Thank you, Vanita.
Of the 6,000 crores that was spent on advertising on the internet, 1,500 crore, or about one fourth went to video. It is one of the most exciting markets in the world, and that is the reason why you've seen something like 24 or 25 OTT startups in India. There are various technology companies, there are various aggregators which have set up shop here. So it's an exciting market to be in India. And that is why also it's an exciting place for indies to be in. And I think I couldn't have asked for a better set of speakers as far as this is concerned. So first I want Orly to take us through the film collaborative, which as a concept, I would advise, I'm sorry I said this for the Netherlands site also because I love the Film Commission Netherlands site. You should go through this. If you're a filmmaker, you should go to the film collaborative site, have a look at what they do. And I would tell everybody who's looking for an opportunity to set up a business in India, look at it for the opportunity possible for indies here. Yeah. Okay, Orly will take us through what the Film Collaborative does, and then we will start our conversation. Thanks.
So I founded it in the end of 2009 in a response to the collapse of the economy and the independent film scene, and we really help filmmakers navigate distribution, both in terms of licensing and particularly in terms of do-it-yourself digital distribution. There's a lot of free information on the website. If you go to the Film Collaborative, let's see if this works. This is a bunch of stuff that we do, but moving to the digital, if you go to the home page, you'll see a bunch of tabs. And there's a tab called Blog. That blog is very information rich. It's almost always about distribution for indie films. And a lot of the subjects, a lot of the blogs also cover specifics about digital distribution. We publish information almost every day on our Facebook page as well and through our Twitter. So just in terms of keeping up with what's going on, it's a free and easy way to do that. We also publish books which are available for free, Selling Your Film Without Selling Your Soul, 2 case study book series. The first one focuses on films in America. The second one also covers digital distribution in Europe. And they're case studies which, at this point, they're a little bit older, but we also keep updating new case studies on the blog. And the reason I mention that is because, Suri and I were talking about films finding their audience and how easy it is for films to just die on the vine. There's so many films. The democratization that has occurred with digital is also like the death knell, right? Because now there's so many films, and how do you find an audience? Well, there are examples of films that have successfully done that, that you might be able to model after, depending on the nature of your film. So, filmmakers first is our motto. We don't take any rights. My presentation is going to focus very quickly on digital distribution in North America. And this is just sort of like a little example of platforms. And the reason I put all these logos here is to sort of draw a distinction between there are platforms that anybody can get onto, and there are platforms that are curatorial. And so, for example, Netflix, everybody wants to get on Netflix, doesn't take every film. And not only that, Sometimes it pays less, sometimes it pays more. For example, just to give an example, we have a film called Landfill Harmonic. I turned down, is anybody from Netflix here? I turned down a worldwide Netflix deal because it was better financially to do a bunch of other deals and aggregate, including I did a 6-figure deal with Vimeo, which doesn't happen all the time, but it's something to think about. And so there are, we'll talk about SVOD and TVOD and the differences, but one thing I want to point out really quickly is things that you can do directly without having to go through a distributor and without having to be curated. And so Vimeo on demand and Amazon you can do direct, and Amazon actually I know is coming to India through their Prime service, and they are in only a handful of countries now, but very soon to be in 200 countries. And interestingly, in talking to distributors of digital distributors in the US, it used to be such terrible money through Amazon, like the key money was through Apple iTunes and Netflix, but the money is getting better and better with Amazon. And even though on a per transaction basis, the rev share isn't really good, they have such a huge reach. And so the volume could actually help. So direct, I gave you the examples of direct, and then not direct, where you have to go through a distributor or an aggregator, and iTunes isn't curatorial. So basically, if you make their tech specs, if you simply can deliver them the product in the specifications that they require, then you'll be on, provided you also have the right running time and nothing crazy in terms of nudity and that sort of thing. And again, Netflix is curatorial. So, okay, this is just taking too long. I was going to walk through an explanation of what an aggregator is, but I think I'll save that for Q&A if anybody wants to talk about that. We happen to work with, just so you know, in terms of the United States, we work with Premier Digital. They are a trusted, leading, approved aggregator, particularly for iTunes, but for like hundreds of platforms around the world. They do all the encoding. They don't take commission, they just take a flat fee. And that's one way that we get films onto different platforms around the world. They also are one of the few companies that can do extra features for iTunes. We were talking earlier about, films succeeding on iTunes or not. You want to think about who's getting your film onto iTunes and whether they can provide stuff that'll help the film pop. You want to have a relationship, if you can, with the programmers at iTunes, or go through somebody who has that relationship, because it'll make a difference. And also if your film has certain components that lend themselves to success, you can communicate that to the programmers at iTunes, who then can promote the film on their homepage and in other ways. And so that's the kind of analysis to have in terms of your film's potential, and then what services you're using to get onto the platforms to see whether or not you can make your film pop and stand out. For example, with Amazon, same thing. There's cross-promotional stuff that can happen if you have the right relationship and also the right film. Not every film has the same potential as every other film. So if you, for example, just looking at iTunes by itself, there's different companies in different parts of the world, and you can see what services they provide if you just go to the iTunes partner page. I'm going to whip through this because this is getting a little granular. I'm happy to send out this PowerPoint to anybody who wants it. Can't even see that. I think I'm just going to whip through to the end so we can do questions. Here are just some of the revenue splits. I'm going to just list them right here so you can see them. That's just basically how the math works out, not including delivery, okay? And so you can see that 10 cents from Amazon isn't a lot of money each time, but it can add up. All right, these are just some basic prices for encoding and delivery costs, at least as far as we deal with in the United States. These are the countries of availability for these platforms, but I already mentioned, and you can see right there, that Amazon is soon to be in 200. So it's been behind Netflix, but it's, in terms of worldwide presence, but it's certainly catching up. And then I'm not going to delve too much into European Union, but I started doing digital distribution in 2004. When I started doing it, it was not very popular. Nobody knew what the hell was going on. Everybody's doing it now. And Europe has been behind the US, but is catching up. And interestingly, another example of what you want to think about, I mean, it depends on your film's potential. There are times when the aggregate of the SVOD platforms in Europe could pay you more money than, let's say, a one-shot deal. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the European Union might also become a single market territory, and that's its own. Okay, and then I think we'll say, how about we save this? I did a little bit of something about Indian films in the United States, but maybe we'll save that for later because it's a little bit tangential.
Okay. Thanks, Orly. That's really useful. Suri, you want to take us through what Vista does, and then we can jump into a discussion?
Yeah, sure. A bunch of you know me and my company, and we've delivered about 4,000 hours of HD video into the global ecosystem, you know, Apple, Google Play, Amazon on the transaction side, Netflix on the SVOD side. Pretty much worked through all, you know, from Disney to Yash Raj to all the big Bollywood guys to the single film and the independents also. So we have, you know, about 3 years of data now. And so we provide a full, we're approved for delivery directly to Netflix, to Apple, so we have a very cost-effective solution for the Indian marketplace. I figured that the best way to get most out of this session is to have, you know, to look at what the size of this marketplace is, what are the challenges in it. Like Vanita told you, there are a number, there right now about 20 different OTT players, and more keep popping up every day. And I'd like to sort of go through the actual economics of this business, and maybe we can do that a little later, right?
No, so that's the point at which I ask you, how much of the content do you help put on? So there's a difference between the Film Collaborative and Vista in that Film Collaborative operates largely in the US and North American markets, correct? Right?
Yeah,
so
I mean,
just to make things clear.
Yeah.
And Vista is based out of?
Out of Bombay.
Out of Bombay. And it is a commercial, it's a commercial thing. Film Collaborative is a not-for-profit initiative meant to help independent filmmakers deal with the whole ecosystem of distributing, marketing, and getting their film out to audiences, just to make that difference clear. How much of the content that you put on board is independent content? And what's the experience been of independent versus, let's say, a Yash Raj kind of content?
Yeah, well, you know, frankly, Vanita, this concept of independent, I mean, every single Indian film is independent for matter of speaking, unless it's studio financed, right? So bulk of, you know, out of 1,500 films that are released commercially in India, we get approached by a Telugu movie producer to indie, some sort of English language film. I'm a strong believer in documentaries, so I've been putting up a lot of documentaries, right? So we are, you know, I started this company as a solution company, and in fact, you know, for all practical purposes, Netflix and Apple needed somebody like me to set this entire system up for them here, because we obviously are a very fragmented marketplace. So I consider myself a B2B business, right? And we work on behalf of the international tech platforms in enabling this whole ecosystem to happen. So, so right now, given the unique challenges in this country, right, we've been able to right now deliver, I think, about 2,000 films that we're handling right now, and that volume's only increasing. We're also now doing television for Netflix. Just to tell you that that unlike the West, iTunes in India does not support television, only supports full-length features. So that's what we do.
Okay. What's the big challenge? I just want to what's the big challenge? Getting the platform to agree to put on the content, or is it finally making money from that piece of content? If I
finally making money from
that piece. So the oversupply thing, I find the sheer inventory is overwhelming. So how does, and this is a question addressed to, how do, and I think everybody asks this, how do you find? What is the equivalent of a good EPG, if I was to say an electronic programming guide, which, you know, when you switch on your satellite television or your cable television tells you which show is coming on which channel and what time, etc. Is there an equivalent of that which is available for the indie ecosystem and in the online world? And marketing support. I mean, I think that is one of the biggest challenges which the indie, so even if they have a film collaborative helping them to get onto the platform, what happens to getting discovered? You know.
Well, first of all, speaking of what you just said about the, oh, my thing is gone, never mind. There's a site in the United States that I didn't even know about, but I found out when I was researching for this, that actually helps people discover Indian cinema in the United States. But this is, there's a lot of content, and it's why, first of all, for example, in the US, you have people who are lobbying the platforms to do the marketing, right? So that's part of it.
Okay.
And you have to demonstrate enough something to get the platforms to then spend the energy to do the marketing. That's number one. Number two, you know, people, that's why you should not be thinking about marketing when you're getting the film onto the platform. You should be thinking about it 6 months or a year before, because you need to build community around your film. We talk about that at the Film Collaborative all the time. So from your festival premiere or even before, first of all, know your audience for your film and start to build that audience so that, the other thing is, your own Facebook page is a platform. If you use VHX or Distrify or any one of those services, you can, you know, people have thousands of followers on their social media. That's a platform.
By the way, we have a Facebook session day after, which I'm hosting, so thanks.
Yeah, but the point being that there's no magic to it. It's, you have to get clear about your audience and build community around your film. If you're a filmmaker who has a brand, you can become your own channel and build. And so there's grassroots outreach, there's social media outreach, there's social media advertising, which can be very effective. It can be very targeted.
Can you share an example, Orly? I mean, which was your most successful indie film? How much money did it make and what did it do?
Well, you know, I mean, we have a lot of different films with different ranges of success, but Landfill Harmonic I mentioned earlier because it's a documentary from Paraguay that has 250,000 Facebook fans. It's a documentary about about people living in a landfill, kids, making instruments from recycled garbage, and that's the story. And it's a very low budget film. Well, they spent more money than they should have actually, but anyway, it's a very simple documentary, and through the sheer story and the amazingness of it and their effort, they have 250,000 Facebook fans. That's what led the film to make money. Because then Vimeo, everybody puts their film on Vimeo, right? Well, Vimeo is tracking how many people watch your trailer. So when Vimeo sees that they have 250,000 Facebook fans and that many people watch their trailer, Vimeo then paid $250,000 for the film.
Oh, okay.
And that doesn't happen every day, but that's why I turned down the worldwide Netflix deal, which was $300,000. Because if I already had, you know what I mean?
So that was the deal we were talking about. So
yeah, just as an example. You know, but then I'll give you another example. I don't know how many people know the band Quiet Riot. Not that many people. No. It was a famous band in the 80s, but you know what? They put their film on iTunes and it's not making that much money. So the thing is like you can have films succeed or fail depending on, first of all, the hook of the film, right? Like how special is it? And then the effort made, and it doesn't happen like instantly. I mean, some things are viral sensations. You can't really plan for that. But you know, so you're asking about successes. Well, there are films that have made 6 figures of revenue by sheer efforts, partnerships with organizations, a lot of outreach, building, and then the film is good, or it could be a niche. My last statement could be, we have a film about Lyme disease. It was the only one, and people really wanted to know that information, so it made a lot of money. You see what I mean? Depends.
What is the success ratio? I mean, what is the success ratio? Is it 1 film out of 10, 2 films out of 10?
Probably less than 1 out of 10.
Less? Yeah. Okay. Suri, in India, what's the experience been? And you know, how would you rate the ecosystem? I mean, for example, to my mind, Film Collaborative is an example of a more evolved ecosystem. In India, where are we as far as the ecosystem, not just for indies, but getting video out to the right audiences is developing.
So we're in a like Netflix is right now available in 190 countries. I think Apple is also in around 190 countries, which means effectively today, as an Indian filmmaker, I can get my film. You effectively can get worldwide distribution, right? Now the big challenge in that is on the transaction side, because like she said, Netflix is not going to pick up every film, which means that that as an indie filmmaker, we're forced to depend upon the transaction ecosystem, which is Google Play, Amazon, and Apple iTunes. Largely speaking, this covers like 99% of the transaction ecosystem. The damn thing is, right, we've got 40 million Indians outside, or South Asians, or diaspora. Those guys are not stepping into the plate to purchase transactions. I mean, it's almost like this weird Indian middle class that doesn't want to spend any money even if they have it, Whereas in America, what you'll see that there's the active community of people who would buy a documentary, who'd buy that independent film, right? It's a way of appreciating the art form by contributing it, whether it's a $4 transaction on streaming or a $10 purchase. So whether it be a Shah Rukh Khan film or a small little Kannada indie, I just don't see the energy around our consumer base outside India. Let's look at what's happening in India, okay? So a typical iTunes sort of profile for us in any film, right? 60% of our transactions, 60 to 70% of our transactions come out of India, where the price is exactly not very cheap. It's about, we're averaging about $2, $3 in India, about 180 rupees on a per transaction basis, which is pretty high, right? 60% of the transactions come from India, 40% from international. But in international, we make a little bit more money because the price points are different, right? But it gives me hope that there is a paying market here in India. I mean, just imagine if with our poor infrastructure, with our lack of, not everybody wants to transact on credit card. How many Apple phones are there, firstly? Given all this, right, we are seeing that Indian customers will pay, right?
But you're telling me contradictory things, that they don't pay and they do pay.
No. So, internationally, they're not paying, right? Okay. So typically, like an American independent film will transact between 10,000 to 30,000 transactions on Apple iTunes.
So you think building in a transaction system and getting people in a frame of mind to pay is one big problem.
Correct.
Anything else that you see as a major challenge in the system? In building
yes, and I think the second thing is that behaviorally, right, we are not habituated enough into paying and downloading or paying and streaming as yet.
That we are not habituated for anything. I mean,
right.
I know of film critics who download films illegally and watch them. I know of film clubs which run on pirated content. I mean, last night I was having dinner with friends who are part of a film club which runs films which are just, and people don't think there's anything wrong with it. So that's an audience mentality thing that you cannot.
I absolutely agree. What my challenge is, right, and this is something once I was telling Mani Ratnam, I said, Mani, you could make a film for 1 or 2 crores in India. Why can't you just roll out a film for 2 crores, go digital direct, right? And we publish the data, right? And he said, yeah, never got down to it. But I haven't seen one big Indian filmmaker take on that and say, I got a fan base of, 1 million people. Let me see if I can convert even 10% of them. That means you got 100,000 people. Nobody's yet walked up to that plate. I do see independents doing that, right? Coming in and getting their Facebook and trying to do whatever they can. But I am not seeing that happen.
But independents needed more than big filmmakers in that sense. So.
No, but if you establish a marketplace of, let's say, 100,000 people that watch a particular type of cinema,
and get them to pay.
Then you can. It's easy for me to plug in somebody else.
That's what Orly was saying about knowing your audience and finding your audience. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, and then please, audience, if there are any questions, raise your hand and ask.
And I just want to interject. There's ad-supported, which can be very successful. So if people don't want to pay, but that you have a lot of people here, if a lot of people watch a film and there's an ad in front of it, that's the model that could work too.
That's the only model which is working here, by the way.
Okay, but it works in the US too. There are people making a lot of money on YouTube from that model.
Yeah. So, on consumption patterns, is there something specific you notice on the different ecosystems that you're part of? That what seems to be working more as far as the indie space is concerned? Is it something that works more in certain regions, things work more in certain languages? I mean, I don't know, anything on consumption patterns which could be a cue to filmmakers? On what people are downloading more of or consuming more of?
I mean, in the States, documentary is more successful than it's ever been. Like the documentaries, and I think that the thing that's the hardest, and I would say this is a great lesson, even in America, English language narrative that is trying to be a studio movie, but isn't, with cast that's not really famous, but sort of, forget about it. It will do no business no matter what. And it happens all the time after time. A tiny documentary will make more money than that movie.
Yeah.
And that's a lesson.
Suri?
I think, I'm not seeing any large patterns. I'm seeing only, marketing-led. If I look at my distribution SKUs and data so far, even with Netflix, they will prefer to have that big Bollywood blockbuster and they pay more money for it than they would for a great indie product. And that reflects even in the transaction ecosystem. It's not, right? It broadly reflects market taste, which skew towards that 80-20, where 20% of the films make 80% of the money.
Questions? Yeah.
Manish Puri, Indian Film Advisors. Orly, I think the platform you were mentioning was Yup TV, maybe, where a lot of indie content, a lot of Indian content's available. I think it's Yup TV. Suri, I don't think we have anyone here from Netflix, which is a bit concerning at the market. But in your opinion, when they go and they're looking to acquire content, what do you think they're looking for? And, in your opinion, what does it take to get the deal done?
They tell me that India is a priority market, right? Having said that, the big boys in town are obviously Amazon. They're the guys with the big checkbook. And so Netflix still, and Orly will tell you that Netflix, from its roots of independent cinema, now has become a giant. And they want the big blockbusters that do theatrically very well, and they want early windows on that. They want global, they want all the rights, right? They're behaving like any other large corporation. So to count on them as an independent, I think, is wishful thinking. We supply them. My job is to present them all, whatever India makes, which I do to the best of my ability, right? But the decision to buy it is totally with them, And having said that, right, I'm trying to build a case for documentaries, for special interest programming, trying to, do gender-based stuff, right? Push the agenda, trying to at least get them to say, hey, why don't you try it, and let your data, because it's a data-driven company, Orly. So
it's looking at their algorithms. I mean, when Netflix produced Orange is the New Black, it was because of things that were popular in the Netflix universe, and that is now the #1 television show of online shows. And Netflix has a lot more of the best shows of the top 50 online shows because it's got all that data from years, 20 years, or whatever it's been, of seeing what's popular. So if you have a film that you want Netflix to buy, you better make sure that people in the Netflix universe are looking for that film and that you are triggering their algorithm.
Manish, for all practical purposes, Sid is here from Star. We've got Jayesh from Z. We've got enough of local market OTT players buying, man. Why are we only interested in all these American companies? I think we've got a healthy ecosystem happening here. There's Singtel in the market. I believe that the Chinese guys are here. I see a lot of activity, and everybody will need content, right? So I think it's a great time.
It is. It is. I mean, every content company tells me their sales have gone up by like something like 50 to 70%.
Hi, my name is Nishanti. I'm a filmmaker.
Yeah.
So you were talking about casting, you know, like a little while ago. Could you elaborate on it? Like, what cast would, like, you know, a complete new cast, would it help? And what kind of films would actually be a hit in this market?
Yeah, no, I mean, and it's a great question because the answer is not going to make you very happy. But at least in America, you know, I don't know this market at all, but in America, I'm telling you that films that have anything other than an A-list cast are challenged if they're a low-budget film trying to tell a story like a studio movie. Those movies just don't compete well. There's exceptions to every rule. And you have films that come out of A-list festivals with no-name casts that do exceptionally well. But those are the gems, the darlings, you know, diamonds in the rough. That's it. But I feel like it's very likely that if you're trying to make a movie that feels like a big movie, but you have a tiny budget and a tiny cast, you're going to get tiny results. That's my feeling. That's my sense.
Okay.
I would say, you know, the weirdest thing is that you know, we had this small film called Cosmic Sex, okay, made by, right?
That's
a really weird.
No, it was made by a Bengali. Naman, do you know the film? Cosmic Sex. It's a Bengali film, right? Okay, little Bengali film, okay? And I think the director is a woman or the producer is a woman. Poor thing, she kept calling me, oh, ma, I made this film and everything else, right? Didn't have a censor certificate, right? So, so I said, you know, iTunes, you can't upload without a censor certificate, right? So I said, hey, we can't help you on iTunes. But I said, I have this other service that I'm using, which Shah Rukh Khan used to go directly to his consumers. It was called VHX. That company got bought over by Vimeo. So I said, let's enable it and we'll put it out. Now, believe it or not, it's one of my highest selling transactions by this girl because, and you know where the transactions came out of? Like some 30% came from Bangladesh. It has a fair amount of soft porn in it. I mean, soft, like whatever, right? And so no, hang on. Now the fact is that she was pushing a particular story which had a fair amount of sex, etc. But she was able to actually find a decent sized market by herself. She pushed it, you know, and it went viral within a certain community and it did quite well. Now, that led me to believe that if you can do interesting subjects which are pushing the boundaries, right? I'm working with this, Preeti, what's that filmmaker? This young girl who's made Bachelor Girls? Shikha. We're going to go and try and do something with her because she's doing a relevant documentary around, you know, single women trying to find space in India. And we, you know, I think that unless you really have something compelling, a story to tell, and you push that envelope, that's where you're going to see conversions.
Any more questions? Last one, please. Yeah.
I'm Chandra from Mountain River Films, Nepal. My question is, I'm trying to sell India Vista Nepalese film very hard, working with the colleague, Suri's colleague, Preeti, since 1 year. So my question is like, how you're saying Sri Lankan movie, Nepali movie, you know, other South Asian movie than Bollywood or Indian movie for Netflix or for other than platforms, you know?
We're offering it, yeah. It's up to them. They saying, look, we know our business better than you. I mean, if they like the film and if your Nepali film is played in Locarno or in Toronto, they probably will come back with an offer. But if it's only played in Kathmandu, I doubt if they're going to come back with an offer. So to depend, and what I'm saying is that let's not just depend on Netflix or Amazon. We need to build a healthy ecosystem for ourselves. If you make a film for 1 crore, you divide that by 100, you know, you need 100,000 people to transact. Getting that 100, if you can't sell your film to 100,000 people, I don't think you should be a filmmaker.
And by the way, in Europe,
well put, Suri. Yeah.
The European television stations that are feeling under threat from Netflix are doing what you were suggesting for this country. They're having their own services to compete, to have more local content for their communities, not to let an American monolithic company dominate.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, fine. We'll wrap up. You can, okay.
I'm Jaspreet Kaur. I'm a producer based out of Calcutta.
Okay.
So when you said that people don't want to pay for transaction, I mean, why should we when we have like Hotstar and the content is available for free? Or even YouTube, where everyone is giving
That depends
content.
on what content you want to watch, no?
Yeah, but most of it, I can see it on Hotstar. Like if
But
I
you
have it
still
on
pay
Hotstar-
50 rupees extra to watch Game of Thrones.
Yes, if
So
the content varies.
so-
But still, there's strong competition from a free platform, right? So how do you deal with it, or what are your thoughts on
If
that?
you're an artist, you should support artists, right? If you're a filmmaker, you should support
Now,
filmmakers.
Look, firstly, right, India's continued making films. Almost 90% of them don't make money, but every year we have some more films coming in, so that will get made, right? The fact is that we need to find enough of an audience within us to pay. And now, because of the internet, because of social media, you can actually reach out and build these audiences. That is what we got to look at. You're only looking at it as a negative, oh my God, then don't be in this business. Because you know, Hotstar will remain free, right? Netflix will remain paid. And tomorrow you can go directly and charge whatever you want to you know, your Facebook friends, and maybe they'll pay for it. So that is a reality of being an artist. I mean, at the end of the day, we are in the business of making films because we love making films. Yes. And therefore we try our best to try and recover as much money as possible.
Thank you so much, Orly and Suri. I wish we could have continued talking. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much. Thank you, audience.
Thank you guys.